How do you come up with the rough drafts?
The rough draft is essentially my experimental line. That's where I go to play with things to see how things work. Does it turn out good? Does it turn out bad? We do it in small batches that we only plan to sell from here in the distillery. The absinthe was the first one that we did with the idea to truly test it here, see how it does, and then take it to market if it does well enough or has a good enough following. And we have found, since we've started talking to people about the fact that we have an absinthe, that there's a lot of requests, especially in your cocktail bars and restaurants, to have a local absinthe. And last year at the John Barleycorn Awards, we got our own pat on the back when it won a gold medal.
This episode is brought to you by The Bar Book. Discover your perfect pour. Join today for free and take the guesswork out of finding spirits and cocktails you'll love. Drink smarter, explore more, and enjoy with confidence on the Bar Book app on Apple and Android.
Hi, and welcome to the Liquor Connoisseur. I'm Crystal. Today we are at Woodworks. We are here with David Wood and David Alexander to tell us more about Woodworks and all the wonderful things that they create here at the distillery. So, David, would you like to tell us more about yourself and how you got into the
And when you say David around here, a lot of people answer. So,
No.
I was in the whiskey business for a long time. In fact, I think the commonality amongst all of us that are here is we've probably been doing it since we weren't old enough to do it. And that might have created part of the issue. So for me, long time in wine, beer and spirits, also uniquely enough, familially, publishing and books.
Okay.
When the laws changed in 2018, you could kind of forecast that change was coming. And I wanted to stay in the industry, but didn't necessarily want to work for anybody that was in it. So I thought the idea would be that I wanted to work for myself. And so kind of the ideas started formulating about what's that look like. We didn't feel like we needed any more breweries in the market. You can't grow the kind of grapes I'd want to make wine with.
Yeah.
And therefore that left spirits. And it's been an experience so far.
That's awesome. And I love how you've tied your publishing background into Woodworks.
We are very book centric. There are books everywhere. The tagline for the distillery is a story told in every sip. Our bourbon and rye, when ours are released, will be the chapter series. Everything that comes before that we have sourced is the part of the preface series. The cocktails that we serve in the tasting room are named for either a movie or a quote or a book or a poem. So we try to follow those guidelines.
That's really cool. So following up on starting at a young age.
Yeah, so I started working in the alcohol industry, even in Louisiana. It wasn't quite legal, but I started working in the alcohol industry a little bit when I was 15. And from there, it's pretty much been a libated career of poor decisions, but you spell that P-O-U-R.
Okay.
I spent a long time as a bartender, front of house person, that kind of thing, different restaurants, bars, but specifically catering and special events. Operated that company, was in charge of it for several years, and have also spent some time working as a wholesaler. I have been to brewing school and now distilling school on a project that I was on in Louisiana.
Nice.
And when that project kind of imploded on itself, I was saved by Dave Wood here, and actually kind of blindly accepted the job and the location. I'd never seen Oklahoma City and never met Dave in person when I signed the employee agreement. So, and then a few weeks later, the boys and I moved up here and we've made a life. It's been great.
That is awesome. To start so early, that's really cool.
Well, really the bartending company that I worked for had a valet parking service. And so I was parking cars and adjusting cars, things like that at that time. And with that, I would be helping to set up and break down the bars as well. And anytime the bartender needed to go for a smoke break or something like that, I would jump behind the bar.
Okay.
And so that's really how I got started way back then. And then at 18, I was able to get a license myself and bartend full-time legally.
That's cool. So tell us about the spirits you all make here.
So the spirits we make here, we do, aside from our bourbon and rye that are obviously sourced at this point, just because we haven't had time to age our own out. However, other than that, the spirits we make here are all grain to glass. We mash and ferment and distill off the grain, and everything here all happens in-house. And we like to say that we let the spirit tell us when it's ready, or tell us if it's good enough. We don't try to force anything or just put something in a bottle to say we have it. If it's not good enough, we will dump it, and we have. There have been iterations of things that were just not up to standard for us. And one of the things we kind of pride ourselves on is that when we come out with something new or have something that we're kind of playing with, and, does this work? Does this not work? What do we think? We will sit down together and sip on it. And we like to say that it's only good or quality if we can drink it neat and want a second pour.
Okay.
So if you don't want the second pour, if either one of us doesn't want the second pour, it's not worth it.
That's really cool.
And that's kind of how our mentality around letting the spirit tell us when it's ready, and then us agreeing 100% that it's absolutely great neat. Because if it's excellent neat, makes even better cocktails.
Nice. And you all also do tours?
We do quite a few of them, actually.
Nice.
Tastings and tours. We have different levels, but it's a kind of a tour through the process in the back, kind of explaining the equipment and what the process is like, and then bringing them up here. And I think that really informs how you taste, knowing where that flavor you find in that gin, exactly where it came from mechanically. And I think it makes a difference, but we do a ton of them.
So what kind of equipment do you all use?
In the back? Oh, that would be better left for David.
Okay.
So everything starts with our mash cooker, which is where we cook and heat up and treat the grain so that we pull the starches out of the grain to make the fermentable sugars. We do that with a variation of heat and enzyme that we, either the grain brings itself, or we do add in our own enzyme to help, especially with corn that doesn't have its own enzyme. So we will get it all cooked down, get all the starches converted into fermentable sugars, and then we will inoculate with our yeast and we'll pump it over into our fermenters. We do open top fermenting. So when you do come in for a tour or tasting, you can look in, taste, touch, smell, and otherwise interact with the product as it's creating the alcohol. It's essentially called distiller's beer at that point. Then grain and all gets pumped into our hybrid pot still. Now our hybrid pot still is kind of a cross between just a standard pot still and a column still. It has a short 4-plate column on the top. And we use that for most of our processes. It also has a gin basket on the side for doing infusions. So we can do multiple different spirits through that pot still very efficiently.
Okay.
And then if we are doing like our 4-grain mash vodka and we want to distill it up to 190 proof, we use the column still. And the vapor will pass through that column still and clean itself up and really concentrate those alcohol vapors up above 190. We can touch 192, 193, and every once in a while you'll see it bob to about 194.
Okay.
So a really high quality spirit coming through. We do not filter or charcoal mellow anything that we make.
Okay.
So everything maintains a grain forward stance, and you can taste the grains that we use in all of our products.
That's really nice. I like it. We've been fortunate enough to have several experiences here at Woodworks where I think we've done everything but distill at this point.
Maybe so.
And so that's been fun. So I want to talk to you about this label.
Uh-huh.
To the average person, this looks like, what, 1, 2, 3 labels? It's 5. And as a person that has had to put on some of these by hand, there's a whole group that does this, dedicates their life to helping to bottle and label here at Woodworks. We have a good time. But how'd you come up with all those labels?
Well, so I think it's
beautiful, by the way.
it's a number of factors. One of them is, so the artist for the label challenged me to provide him with 2 words that were his guidance for the label design itself. One was rugged and one was elegance, just because those were the first 2 things off my. The rugged was more about using a font that took you back to Old Fitzgerald and Jim Beam and anybody else that was been around for a long time, and how did that get invoked? And I think he did that with what's referred to as the lockup, the Woodworks. And then I think for the elegance was more of this kind of this contemporary sash that we refer to as the flavor label now.
Okay.
And Then you have to have something that explains what's in the bottle, which creates a back label. And then you have to have something that creates the safety environment. And that is the cap strap and the neck strap as well. So, and he's pretty exacting, and he doesn't care how many labels we have to put on.
I see.
Now, after the fact, everything else we've done besides these is much easier. Yeah.
Yes,
we have the rough draft label that we do for projects where David wants to refer to as squirreling off. And so there's one label for it and then two labels for the paperback.
I enjoy labeling the paperback.
Yeah.
But I do love that you put this tag, a story told in every sip.
But we believe in transparency, not only quality, but transparency. So there are so many distilleries that will buy finished goods, or the industry refers to them as sourced, and don't tell you that they didn't make it.
Right.
So for us, it's really, really important for you to know what's ours. And so those books are either informative in that way, which then says, we're even willing to tell you where we got it from. In that preface series, the idea is that we'll use 3 or 4 different folks.
Okay.
MGP is preface 1. We'd like to maybe use something from Black Button in New York State, potentially Frey Whiskey Ranch, possibly Watershed in Columbus, Ohio, because we don't know what our spirit's really going to taste like. So we don't want to serve you this really sweet, smooth, soft entry bourbon for 4 years and then give you something that's diametrically opposed to that. So the idea is to keep the taste profile moving so that you get a new surprise when ours comes out.
Nice. I think some of my favorites here are the rye, as well as the those rough draft selections that you make. The corn whiskey has been one of our favorites, and then I think with the last menu, the absinthe was one of my favorites. The green tea absinthe drink.
Oh yeah,
that you all had. So
yeah, that absinthe has really done well. People have taken to that a little better than what we thought originally when we produced it. It'll actually get a market bottle moving forward for our next round.
Nice.
And you'll start to see it in markets.
Is it still gonna have the same proof?
Still gonna be the same proof.
Okay.
Still gonna be the same flavor profile. It's still gonna talk to you and it won't shut up.
But you will not see a green fairy, I promise.
That's right.
So how do you come up with the rough drafts? What's that process?
So the rough draft is essentially my experimental line. That's where I go to play with things that aren't necessarily in the plan. They are things to see how things work. Does it turn out good? Does it turn out bad? We do it in small batches that we only plan to sell from here in the distillery. They don't ever see market. And we found some good and bad. Like we have a gin in that category that is really good, but it really doesn't have a place in the market. Right. Then we have our white dog or our unaged bourbon that's in that. Again, something kind of unique to us that we really kind of want to keep close to the heart. So we only really have that available here. And then of course the absinthe, and the absinthe was the first one that we did with the idea to truly test it here, see how it does, and then take it to market if it does well enough or has a good enough following. And we have found, since we've started talking to people about the fact that we have an absinthe, that there's a lot of requests, especially in your cocktail bars and restaurants and those higher end cocktail places and things like that, would love to have a local absinthe. And then last year at the John Barleycorn Awards, we got our own pat on the back when it won a gold medal. So
nice. And then you're also looking into liqueurs as well.
Yes. So moving forward, we will be making a couple of liqueurs or something similar to that. One of them being a nocino, which is an Italian black walnut liqueur.
Nice.
It's going to be really fun to play with, but you can really only make it once a year when you have all the unripened green black walnuts that you can get usually late May, June, that time of year. You let them sit in the spirit and they turn like a nice almost black color and turn the spirit black. And then once those kind of macerate into the spirit, you take it, sweeten it up a little bit, let it sit in the barrel, add some other spices depending on your preference, and then it becomes a true black walnut liqueur. I'd never even heard of it. This was kind of Dave's dream thing that he wanted to do.
I felt like we needed to have at least two things that were Oklahoma.
Okay.
Black walnuts and persimmon were those two nods to Oklahoma. Because I think Oklahoma's an incredible place to be from, but it doesn't have to define everything you do. So how do we prove that the quality can be right here in Oklahoma? And then how do we do something that acknowledges Oklahoma as well? And so those are those two projects. We just got to find the right timing to make them happen.
That's awesome. Yeah, Oklahoma is coming up in the spirits world, and we hope to continue to spread that to everyone.
Absolutely.
You all have been playing with barreling and storage.
We have.
How's that experiment been?
We have the spirit. We bottled a little bit of it and did a little mini barrel program at Christmas year before last. We have teamed up with a couple of other entities here in Oklahoma City, one that's mass of wood, and they've done some great stuff producing some barrels and learned a number of things along the way.
Okay.
In addition, we've got another company who has actually now developed some proprietary straps for this Oklahoma barrel. But barrels have been around for millennia, and we know that they know what they're doing over time. So we're in our early stages. So we did our barrel building process, maybe in not the best order, but didn't know that until we were done.
Okay.
So on this next one, we're going to nail it. And shortly thereafter, we will have Oklahoma pin oak barrel with Oklahoma straps on it,
Okay.
with Woodworks Distilling White Dog in it.
Okay.
And we'll have eventually a 100% Oklahoma bourbon.
That's
Including the
awesome.
grain. The grain in that White Dog is also 100% Oklahoma.
Oh, that's great. That's really great. And then I know you got to take a hand in charring a barrel.
Yeah. Yeah. So the barrel we were playing with, we brought it in, and we had to, using the straps, we had to figure out the torque to put on the straps in order to watertight the barrel. So we bring it in, I fill it with water, it leaks. We tighten it up a little bit, and then also let the wood expand. Eventually it did make itself watertight. So we were good with that. We dumped it, took it to a giant oven where we were able to toast it for a bit. Toasted it and brought it back. And in order to char, I had a blowtorch. And I won't tell you where, but it was someplace very safe and secure. And we used the blowtorch to char the barrel for us. But through the process of what we were doing with the barrel, the headers, the footers, the hauling it here, hauling it there, try it this, try it that, take it apart, put it back together, take it apart, put it back together, it ultimately ended up in a catastrophic failure, and we could not get it to reseal. And so we weren't going to put 53 gallons of spirit in it just to have it fall to the floor. So,
Right.
but we learned a lot in all the process with that. We learned what not to do is really what we did to follow Thomas Edison's thing. We learned how not to invent light bulbs. And so we know a lot better going into this one. We're going to treat it with a little bit more baby gloves on and see if we can't get it watertight afterwards. In fact, I think to get the wood to swell prior to filling, I'm going to use my crawfish cooker I brought from Louisiana and steam it.
So a lot of innovation here.
Yes.
Woodworks also does events, and we've been to a few. So you do the crawfish boil.
Mm-hmm.
That was amazing.
So yeah, once a year we try to do what we call a friends and family crawfish boil. It's not necessarily open to public, just because I don't want to work that hard and cook for that many people, because I want to enjoy my day as well. So my dad comes up from Louisiana and helps me cook, and we cook out there in the back alley, play music. There's games, LSU cornhole, and we cook up some crawfish. And I always like to warn people: the early batches are edible for Oklahomans, the late batches are edible for Louisiana.
It does have a kick. Well, this has been great. I appreciate you all.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you. This has been fun.
This is awesome. All right. Well, one of the things we like to do here is say, as always, like, subscribe, and share. But drink to remember, not to forget. Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers.